Welcome to More Than a Mission, a podcast where we explore what it looks like to discern God's calling to live an active, intentional life of sharing the gospel. Each week, we talk about the way God is moving in our lives, around the world, and everywhere in between, as well as how God's call to missions may apply to your life. Ready to explore your calling? Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the More Than a Mission podcast. My name is Micah Torgerson, and I'm here with the man with the vision, Zaya Henderson, and Mr. Wiseman himself, Andrew Carlberg. We're super excited to start this podcast and share our hearts with all of y'all. So in this introductory episode, we're going to be talking through the vision for our podcast, how it came to be, what we would like it to be, what we want ourselves to take from this podcast, and what we want you as listeners to take away from what we're going to be discussing in this podcast. Zaya, you were the man with the vision for this podcast. Do you want to go into a little bit about how this came to be and why you felt God was putting this on your heart?
Oh yeah, for sure. So one night I was actually just praying and thinking about like what should I do, what can I do to actually show my faith in something other than a blog and my vlogs I'm gonna do. And podcast came up, then kind of came in back in my head, went to sleep, and then that's when y'all two came to mind and actually having a conversation. So I was like, okay, Mike and Andrew are supposed to be doing this with me and everything. Then woke back up, prayed about it again, and that's when I actually messaged y'all about doing the podcast with me. And I'm curious of what made y'all say yes to doing the podcast with me.
Yeah, so for me, this is Andrew, for all y'all who don't know, apparently known as Wiseman. I just think the first thing for me is it's a really clear opportunity to just like capture what our team is doing as a whole throughout the year. I think through scripture, like we are called so many times to remember what the Lord has done. And so I think this is a really unique and like clear way to just like be able to have something that we can like remember as we're going through this, and then afterwards of just like how the Lord moved through this year, rather than like getting caught in the motions and the chance to like forget all of the amazing little things that the Lord did. I think this is like just a really beautiful way to remember both the little and the huge things that the Lord does throughout the year.
Yes, dude, I absolutely love that. Like, for me, going into this world race journey, I know that I'm going to want to like journal about it and document everything that we're going through. But I know I'm so bad at like actually doing that in my like everyday life here. So who knows how it's going to go on the field. So that was a big part of my yes to doing this podcast, is just to have a way to, reflect on everything that we're going to be experiencing and have it documented somewhere so that I can go back and just be reminded of all the things that we're going to be going through. And for me also, I just know that I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, specifically like while I'm working. So I just think it's a really neat and like easy, different way to reach people. And I'm super excited for us to do that in that way.
Yeah, I think another thing that I would add on to that is just like the beauty I think that I can see in podcasts, um, is like the art of like storytelling, right? And being able to like share the gospel through stories and experiences rather than just being like a head knowledge kind of thing. I mean, like we even see Jesus model that, right? Like he spoke in parables literally to intentionally confuse people, but he spoke in parables in a way to like relate to everyday life. Like he spoke and he taught through stories, and that's just like a very clear way that we learn. It's a way that we engage, and so I think that's something that's super unique about podcasts, is just like the art of being able to tie our everyday lives and the stories that we're experiencing, like our testimonies, into sharing the gospel, as opposed to the gospel just being like a formatted head knowledge kind of thing.
Yeah, man, I love that. And I'm super excited to see the different perspectives that the three of us are going to have. That's one thing that I really enjoy when we have like Bible studies and when you're reflecting on life, is to see how everyone else sees it in their eyes and to hear their stories. So that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to learning throughout this podcast journey, is just how, like, not only you two, but how everyone else on our World Race squad and our mission teams, as well as any other listeners, just to hear what they have to say and their take and their perspective on the things that we may be encountering on our World Race journey, or just in our faith journey in general.
Yeah, it's going to be really amazing to see how we could be potentially be on the same outing or the same mission, but have different perspectives of it. And then going back and seeing how we all each seen it and how we handled it in different ways. And then also, I guess, seeing how our other squad members and how that interaction with them changed us and how we changed them to view it in different ways.
Yeah, I think just like with that, on top of our different perspectives, the chances that we're in like different locations within these different countries, there's just so much beauty in, like, in addition to that, we then get a perspective of 11 different countries around the world, right? And so just this beautiful chance to like capture a global vision of what ministry looks like. And further, like on top of that, I think for myself, when I've like thought about a lot of ministry, it can easily be this like glorified vision of what ministry is. It's like a one-time decision, like you're going to these places that need help and like serving food and everybody loves you, and like you get all these amazing moments of like getting to love on orphans and like seeing everybody accept Jesus. But the reality of missions is like there's going to be struggles in it, there's going to be really hard moments in it, and there's going to be beautiful moments in it. So I think the chance of like doing this on a weekly kind of or bi-weekly kind of basis is like we're going to get to see all of those moments throughout the year, and like all of those perspectives between us, different countries, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful and the awesome. And so just like to get to capture that throughout the year, all of those different phases, I think is going to be really awesome for us to learn. And for like thinking about myself when I was thinking about missions, this is like something I would have loved to be able to like invest in, and just hearing like what daily life actually looks like for people out in the mission field.
Yeah, dude, that's such a good point. And I totally forgot about the fact that like we could all be in different places within like the countries that we're going to be. And that just makes this so much better. Like having to do this, or being able to do this podcast, is just another way for the three of us to stay connected, even if we're not in the same physical like serving location throughout our 11-month world race journey. And that's such a cool thing too. It's crazy to me that, you know, we've signed up for the world race a few months ago. And Andrew, I've met you once. Zaya, I have yet to meet you in person, but y'all literally feel like family to me. And like God is just showing me how powerful and comforting and encouraging it can be to have a relationship with people that is centered around Christ. And I am just so excited for this.
Yeah, it's super exciting, especially when we do Zoom calls and hearing how other people have been on mission trips, and then coming from me, where this is my very first mission trip that I've ever been on, and a big one as an 11-month one, as that just be my first mission trip. But it's going to be a learning process, and I'm excited for it.
Andrew, I also love how you mentioned this being an outlet for people to hear about our experiences out in the mission field, because I know as someone who's trying to prepare for this world race journey, I've been doing all sorts of things like trying to find podcasts and finding YouTube videos to see past world race members like experiences, to give myself a little bit of an expectation. And I am super excited to now be on the flip side of that and being able to be that outlet for other people to see, you know, what life could potentially be like in missions. And I think having the three of us here too is also super encouraging for anyone who's listening in, because I think they're going to be able to hear and see how different life on the mission field can be for every individual person. Like the three of us are not going to have the same story, even though we're traveling on this same 11-month route. None of us are going to have the exact same story, and we're going to be moved in such different ways. So I'm excited for listeners to be able to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that, something that for sure comes to mind is like, I would just love for people to hear in those different experiences and like the different personalities we have and all of these different like things that we are going to come from, the places we're going to come from in this, that like you don't have to go to the middle of Africa to be on mission, right? Like just the beauty of realizing that like even amidst like some of the normalcy that we'll experience, like I hope more than anything what people are able to take away is a mindset of just like how the Lord can move if you simply just like look for him to move. And the three of us are fortunate enough that we like get to go on this thing where we have like pretty much all responsibilities stripped other than actually getting to just like focus on pointing people to Jesus. But like more than anything, I would love for people to just be able to hear and like hopefully be encouraged in the things that we get to like see and share, and like hopefully that can like inspire people to live in a way that is missional wherever they're at, right? Like you don't have to be on some 11 country trip to live a life that is missional and expectant and seen of the Lord to move. And so I think that is more than anything my hope of like the encouragement that this can bring to the people who get to tune in.
Amen, dude. I love that. And that's honestly one of the biggest things that I hope that I can take away from this experience. It's going to be so much fun serving around the world and going to these 11 different countries, but I'm more excited to see the change that like happens in myself, so that when I get back to the States and, return to what we know as everyday life right now, that I can still live a life filled with mission centered around Christ.
Yeah, definitely echoing what Micah said. I'm excited to see the growth that happens in myself. Like now being an introvert, but still talking some, I hope to like open my shelf a little bit more for, I'll lean more on the extroverted side, but not all the way over on the extroverted side, but still bold enough to speak up and talk every time something, every time that interactions happen with me and conversing with people on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, Isaiah, that's awesome. Like I know it was a very pleasant surprise to me when I got your text about doing the podcast, just because I know you've sort of explained to us in some of our chats before this that you're kind of an introverted person. So it was so awesome to hear that coming from you, that this is something that you wanted to do and that you wanted to do it with us. And I absolutely love that.
It's going to be a process, but I'm excited to learn about it and hopefully continue with it after the race.
All right. I think that is going to do it for us on this introductory episode. Stay tuned for the coming weeks where we're going to share more about what in the world this world race mission trip that we're doing actually is. We'll give you all the details about where we'll be going, what we'll be doing, and telling you more about ourselves as people, our faith journey, and how we got to where we are now, making the decision to go on this crazy 11-month mission trip, as well as some of like our background that we all have in missions to this point. So stay tuned. That's all for this week. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah. See ya.
We want to thank you for listening to More Than a Mission. For more information and to keep up with our ministries, follow us on social media at More Than a Mission Podcast, or email us directly at morethanAmission@outlook.com.